Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery. It was called Labyrinths. And as it starts, we see the Breen hold a funeral for Locke. And in a seeming promise to resurrect him, Maul vows to fix things. In fact, she insists vigorously to the Breen that she can do so. Discovery arrives in the Badlands, where, of course, they immediately find the Archive's comms beacon and are given coordinates that they need to navigate through the Badlands to. Of course, Book goes along to the Archive because he's invited by one of the archivists so as to help add context to an item that the Archive has acquired from his planet, when the Archive realizes Discovery is carrying someone from that planet, Quazon. Michael is shown to a room containing the text tied to the final clue. Book is taken to a different room and is loaned a literal piece of his homeworld before he goes to see Michael in the room she was left in, only to find her knocked out. And when he tries to wake her up, we find that she's apparently in a mindscape in which an interactive guide type program, who of course looks like Book, is there. Dr. Culber is called in, and he can't really do anything. And Rayner, also there, decides that while Michael is down for the count and no one can go in to help her, the search for the clue must go on. So he asks the archivist for all the relevant info they have on who it was that left the text. Michael, meanwhile, tries to figure out what she's supposed to do in the program, apparently designed by the scientist who hid the tech, and deduces that looking through history books for info might be the right way to go. The program warns her that if she fails, she'll die, and offers to release her, but she declines the offer as a Breen ship arrives on the scene, and Discovery goes to red alert. The Breen are rebuffed at the Archive when they demand the text or else, causing them to decide to try to get to the Archive without the final coordinates. Michael realizes that she needs to navigate the maze of the Archive as built in her mindscape to get back to the reading room, so she goes about doing so. Discovery is ordered by Rayner to hide in the plasma storm since it's no match for the Breen ship. The Breen begin to use shield tunneling technology to get into the Archive. With her time running out, Michael comes to the conclusion that the reason she can't solve the maze is because she hasn't fixed things with Book, and or because she's afraid that if she fails, no one will care about her. Rayner and Book manage to forestall a full-on Breen invasion of the Archives with the help of the crew on Discovery, but Book is wounded. With Discovery not being able to withstand the plasma storms much longer, and Book needing sick bay, Rayner orders Discovery to wait 5 more minutes, at which point they'll have to evacuate this Archive, regardless of the danger of beaming Michael off of it. When Michael admits her fears and guilt, she passes the test because apparently she needs to be able to be honest with herself in order to protect the progenitor tech. And she's told where the clue is, at which point she retrieves it, before being beamed back to Discovery with Rayner, Book, and the Doctor just as the Breen beam in. With the Breen attacking the Archive, Discovery attempts to draw them away from it, but they don't go for it, and they demand the clues in exchange for sparing the Archive. Michael offers to give them the clues if they agree to spare the Archive, so they do, and then Michael puts the clues all together and generates a map to the location of the tech, making a note of it before handing the clues over to the Breen. Once the Breen have the clue map, they start firing on Discovery, which jumps away, after taking fire for several seconds to trick the Breen into thinking they've been destroyed, which works, at which point the Primarch decides to fire on the Archive anyway for no reason, prompting Maul to challenge him, which succeeds in swinging his soldiers against him and allows Maul to take him down. And that's where the episode ended. So this episode was, I thought, very reminiscent of 90s style Star Trek, specifically Star Trek The Next Generation, in terms of its construction, in terms of what the meat of the episode is. We need to get a certain thing from this place, so we go to the place, and the captain finds themselves having to solve a puzzle, and the rest of the crew has to keep an enemy away during that time. And so they do, and the mystery is solved and the goal is achieved. And I guess all the episodes have sort of been that way this season, with a couple of exceptions. And so in that way, this season has been a better season of Discovery, I think, than all the other seasons. So I want to give them credit for that. But, there still were some things in it that I didn't like. First of all, this whole business of always tracking Discovery, or how they keep saying, oh, they can track us, they can track us, they can track us. First of all, how? How are they tracking a spore jump? And second, if the enemy is focused on a particular ship, and you're trying to achieve something before they can achieve it, then the smart thing to do is to let them keep chasing you, lead them on a wild goose chase, and hand the clue chasing mission over to another ship. Now, the other ships can't jump, but so what? There's you and there are these other people chasing the thing. If they're off chasing this one ship and they don't know how many clues there are, then the other ship can go chase the clues at least for a while with no one bothering them. And if it takes hours instead of seconds to get from one place to the next, then so be it. I mean, at the end, when they have all the pieces and they know where the tech is and they can jump there, as long as they make some repairs first, they surmise that it's going to take the enemy 6 hours to get there. So if those are the kind of distances we're talking about, and I imagine we wouldn't always have been, but at the same time, they keep catching up to Discovery in like short order. So you don't even need this ship that can jump. If they're focused on Discovery now, why wouldn't you have passed the clues over to another ship and passed the duty of finding the clues over to another ship? Obviously, because it's focused on Discovery for purposes of the show. The show is focused on Discovery. But in other words, it doesn't make sense because in real life, they just would have passed it to another ship to keep the bad guys from catching up. I mean, after a while, they might have figured out it was a ruse, but then they don't know what ship they need to chase. So keeping the clues on Discovery and keeping Discovery on the mission when the other ship knows that it's on Discovery and that they're the one on the mission, and they can track the jumps. It's just ridiculous to keep the Discovery on the mission. It just doesn't make any sense. If time were a factor, if they were under a time limit, okay. But they weren't. They aren't. And the other ships catch up in due course anyway, whether it was Locke and Maul's ship or now the Breen ship. They keep catching up to them in short order. So jumping isn't any real advantage. I mean, it's an advantage, I guess, but nothing special. So it's just absurd. It's absurd that that this happened because now the Breen have the clues because they were chasing the one ship that was on the mission when the mission could have been handed off to another ship. I mean, again, it's Discovery, right? The show. So you have to have but then don't have this plot. Write a different story where it's not dumb that Discovery is the ship on the mission, or don't write the part where they can track them. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Another thing that's ridiculous is it's always Book. It's always Book that goes on the mission. They always figure out a way to work him into the mission, or an excuse, I should say, to work him into the mission. And, this was like the most paper thin one ever. They get to the archive and the archive scans Discovery, which, okay, I'll buy that. And they go, oh, you have someone from Quajon on this ship? We would like him to come with, whoever comes because we have an artifact and we would like to have some context added to it, blah, blah, blah. So that's fine. But like that part lasts 2 seconds and then he's just in the thick of it like always. And not only that, but they then make it so that he's the avatar of the program that interacts with Michael's mind. Clearly, just to have that actor and that character in the show for the length of it. And, okay, fine, it scanned her mind and he was top of mind. And so it went with that. But even the program mentions it could have chosen Tilly. So it's like, why not Tilly? Tilly's a member of the Starfleet crew. Now, they've given Tilly stuff to do in all these episodes. She does a couple of things in this episode, has some lines or whatever. And so she's part of the story. But, it's just absurd that this character who isn't in Starfleet is in all the episodes this much and always plays a crucial part in the stories, especially this season when they've sidelined characters like Saru. So, okay, I said Tilly, but Saru, they gave him this diplomat thing, and I thought, okay, they're going to use it. They're not using it. They've sidelined this character. Now, to save money, maybe, because they don't have to pay him, that could be it. But like, Star Trek was always about the crew, and the crew went on away missions. And, even in Deep Space Nine, when the crew wasn't all Starfleet, it was still the crew, Kira, Odo. But now they've sidelined these Starfleet characters because it's Saru, it's Owoshikun, it's Detmer. I mean, they never had big parts in the show, those last two, but they're not even in it anymore at all. Again, I think because of money. They're paying these other actors in the helm positions, in the, bridge positions, less money for sure. And, it's not even that they include Book. Michael goes down to the archive with one person and it's Book. And if they hadn't invited Book, she would have gone alone. Like, okay, it's not a quote unquote dangerous situation, but like, why wouldn't you take someone with you if you know that you're probably gonna have to solve a mystery or be put through your paces? Why wouldn't you bring a Starfleet crew member with you? Bring Tilly, bring Adira, bring Stamets. I mean, yeah, you want them on the ship if needed, but like, is no one else on the ship competent to do the jobs that they do? Like, it's just absurd that not only is Book always part of the away team and always in the thick of it, but crew members that should be included also aren't. And it's just dumb. It makes it so that you can't deny that it's the Michael Burnham show. And that's terrible. People accuse it of being the Michael Burnham show, and they're living up to it with these stupid choices more now than ever before. So, like I said, they get points for it being like classic Trek in the way it was set up and executed, but then they do these dumb things. Like, I'm surprised Rayner was in it. I was glad to see Rayner in it. I thought the character was well represented in this episode, and they didn't have one of those things where he messes up and Michael has to sort of scold him, which I liked when they did it because I think it's a character development thing, and I liked seeing it, but it was getting a little old, so I'm glad they left it out this time. And he was just there being a Starfleet officer, doing his job and succeeding. And I thought that was awesome. But like, he only went down because she got hurt or, she was laid out. Why didn't he go with her to begin with? So I don't know. Maybe it's not a fair criticism because the way they did it, she was waylaid and the first officer did, in fact, pick up the slack and join the mission. But like, I don't know. It felt like in the crux of the episode, she was alone with Book, and it just, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was balanced out, and I shouldn't critique it this way. But like I said, she made the choice to go down without anyone else from the crew, and that's just stupid. It only happened that we ended up having the crew involved because the way they wrote the story was that she gets waylaid. So I don't know. Anyway, I like seeing Commander Reese. They used Commander Reese briefly. He was in command of Discovery, and I thought they wrote that part well, and the character came off well, and that was very cool. But I didn't like much else about it. I thought as well that this whole solution to the puzzle was that she needed to admit that she's guilty about certain things, I guess to herself, and admit that she's got doubts about certain things and fears about certain things was dumb because how is that ability on her part representative of her being able to well protect the progenitor tech once she finds it? And for how long is she going to have to protect it? It's going to be given over to Starfleet and the Federation Council. She's not going to be the administrator of the tech once it's in Starfleet and the Federation hands. Is she? Like, that would be the ultimate dumb thing. Well, Michael, you found this and you're just so darn super awesome that we're going to take you off Discovery, at the end of the series, and you're going to be the administrator of this tech and guide the Federation through using it and be the guardian of it. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they do. But like, at this point, we don't know that that's what's going to happen. So why is it so important that she be able to acknowledge these things about herself? I understand they want her to be worthy of finding it and of not taking it for herself and misusing it. But like, that evaluation should always been of her as a representative of an entity, the Federation, Starfleet, not personally, because she's not going to be the administrator of the thing once they find it beyond handing it over to Starfleet and the Federation. So I thought that was dumb. I thought it was psychobabble, which is funny because Burnham even says, you really want me to get into psychobabble? And she does. And I just thought it was a cheap way to wrap up the episode. It was just blah, blah, blah talk to justify having put the character through their paces to get the clue. And it was nonsensical, I thought. So I didn't like that. I didn't like the wrap up of it. I also didn't like, and this has been the case in other episodes, how Maul was able to gain traction in this episode. In the end, she like bullies the Primarch repeatedly. And in the end, she bullies him to the point where his soldiers take her side, or at least one of them does at first. At which point she's able to just drop down to the ground, kick him in the nuts, grab his weapon, and kill him. A Breen. who Starfleet is scared to death of. This one-time courier, small little person who's not a soldier, is able to take out the Breen Primarch in 2 moves. And then of the 50 people around, all of them decide she did the right thing. There's no conflict between that group of 50 where some agree with her and some don't, and they have to shoot it out. They all just fall in line behind her and the one Breen who stood up to the Primarch with her. It's ridiculous. Because she leverages, oh, I'm the wife of the Scion, and this is what the Scion would want, and they all fall for it. No, some of them would have been loyal to the Primarch. There would have been a fight. But yeah, seeing her kick his ass so easily, just like she kicked a bunch of ass in the last episode, was just stupid. Stupid. And go back to the original series, and Kirk got in stupid fights where he would do this, right? Kirk Fu, right? And kick like a creature's ass or another guy's ass or whatever, and it was dumb. But that was the 60s. Like, why are they having these dumb? It's just dumb. And I'm not just saying it because she's a woman. If it had been Culber, or in DS9, if it had been Bashir, or on this show, if it had been Stamets, he's one guy and he's not like a warrior type guy, and he's taking out these brains and soldiers. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense that this courier person was able to do it. It's just stupid, and it annoys the crap out of me. And now there are 2 episodes to go. I think they're only going to spend one of those episodes on finding the tech and getting the tech and all that. I think the last episode is going to be some kind of a bookend episode for the series. At least I hope so, because it would be dumb to have that plot go right up to the last couple of minutes involving the technology and then have 2 minutes to wrap up the series. That would be stupid. So I think that's what we're going to see, but I could be wrong. Time will tell. But that's all I have to say. So for now, I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back to do a breakdown and review of the penultimate episode of the season and the series once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.